All right. Hey,
How's it going?
very good. Good to have you here, Chase, with this great scenery back here, live from Salesforce Tower in San Francisco. So thanks for coming into the city. I just learned before that it was the first time you're here almost since I was last here in November or so. It's great to have remote work these days, right?
I mean, it's hard to beat these views. I do miss it, but yeah, it's good to be back in the city, and it's good to meet you in person. It's the first time we're meeting in person, which is hard to
Yes,
believe, but here we are.
exactly. No, that's super cool. I love it. And I've learned a lot already. Like we've been working since, what is it now? Probably like 2 months or so.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot on like your insights you've had in the social commerce space and stuff, and how you see also your vision of how this will evolve over time, because you're a real insider. Maybe that's a good thing to take a step back quickly before we dive in too deep. Like just about you more, like if you go back in your history and how you came about to being where you are now at Flip, and where you see yourself going, like how did it all start? Like how did you come into social commerce?
I think it chose me before I chose it. It was hard to see it coming because it wasn't really a thing when I came into the tech world. Getting started, I was in fintech, fortunate working for a company that owned Venmo. And that was really my first introduction where I got to experience how ecosystems are built and how they prosper, where you're looking after both the creator user side as well as the brand side, but how do they all come together to really create this network effect where they're feeding off one another and driving growth. And so I got a lot of experience working there at Venmo for a while, and then a fun opportunity came up to join TikTok. This was prior to TikTok shops launching in the US. I like to think that I got a PhD in social commerce through my short time there at
Uh-huh.
TikTok. Was a part of the founding team and launching TikTok shops in the US. I got really close to the Douyin team over through ByteDance, right,
Mhm.
to really understand how someone has taken this concept of social commerce and really truly have created this unique experience where it becomes a daily utility where people cannot get into social commerce without, once they pick up their phone, they're already just a part of social commerce from the time they wake up to the time they go to bed. And then, long story short, through relationships and just kind of thinking about the next chapter in my life, I found this amazing company called Flip, and we're really driving this whole concept of community-led product to reviews through video UGC,
Mhm.
bringing value to brands, developing community for the creators and the users who are shoppers, and we're just on a wild, fantastic ride right now.
Very cool, very cool. So for those that don't know Flip, like you say, it's a creator review driven commerce. I think what you told me once is it's kind of like it's the social version of Amazon. I like that analogy there a lot.
Yeah, we joke around internally, and when brands are what's Flip? We say it's if Amazon and TikTok had a baby, Flip was born, but maybe we got only the good traits from mom and dad. But all jokes aside, what we're doing is we're driving authenticity through product reviews. The special thing about Flip is that the only way to create content is if you actually buy the product on Flip. So we create this experience for not only everyday shoppers to be able to find products that they're already using in their everyday lives, or discover new products through the lens of creators or influencers that they follow. All they have to do is buy it, and they can be an advocate for that brand, that product, and earn a commission for the sales by uploading a video back to Flip. So once they've uploaded that video, it enters our ecosystem. Other users of the platform can watch the video. They earn on engagement like views and likes. And then if a sale is driven, we give them a percent of that sale as a commission. And so, we've been fortunate enough to be able to onboard millions of creators who are coming over to Flip. Not only that, like I mentioned, just everyday people. If you are a true fan of a brand and you want to go and tell the world how much you love it, or even to be completely honest feedback about that product, you have the voice and you can earn a commission as long as you can connect to a community. And that's what Flip does, is it brings people together, centers it around the content creator, and allows them to advocate the things that they're bringing into their life that they think other people should have a chance to learn more about.
Okay, okay. And so you're heading up the growth there with Flip there. What were like the things that you're most proud of in the time that you've been with them so far?
I mean, it's been a lot. Obviously, as a startup, we go through a lot of different milestones and excitement for us. Really just being able to connect with the community. I think in January this year, just because it's the most recent, we had an amazing opportunity to drive over 4 million people to download the app. Not only that, we had 2,000 brands join the ecosystem as well. And so that for us is just a proving moment where people really see the vision that we're putting out there, and they believe in the product, and they're investing time. It's a strategic initiative that they need to be all in. A lot of these brands who were kind of curious about social commerce in the early days, and maybe missed a couple of boats on the way, and their willingness to come in and try something new and fall in love with the performance is eye opening. And obviously, as a small but mighty team, we really rally behind what we're able to do together and bringing this vision to light.
Okay. Okay. Very cool. And maybe not exactly now on the social commerce track, but on the track of growth and like growth in the era of like now having agents or agentic tech that you can employ. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Have you tried and dabbled around with this a bit? Like, what have you seen with agents and sales and growth in a company like Flip, for example, now?
Yeah, I mean, AI is everywhere now. For us, is how do we scale with what we have? And AI has become a natural part of our day to day. Being able to give the team, specifically in our sales department, the tools to scale themselves, because what we end up needing them to do is really just closing at the end of the day, right? And all of the in between nuances that require a healthy pipeline are very tedious. It could take hundreds of people in order to get to the results of driving 2,000 brands live in a single month. Our team is not that big. So leveraging AI from just daily operations, but more so what we're understanding about the relationship between consumer and product, as a specific example, is that relationship really needs to be nurtured all the way through the funnel of from click to checkout. For us, we use UGC, but the world that Get It AI and others are playing in right now is really coming in to provide that one-to-one relationship, where right now there's a bit of disconnect, and we kind of put a lot of pressure on the consumer to figure out for themselves should they go, what questions do they have, and you only have a few seconds in order to get them to convert. And so I think in the world of what you're building, and what really gets me excited about, is how does it come in and really nurture that relationship, provide a personal one-to-one interaction to help that consumer through that journey of finding the right product or the right information.
Yeah, that. So you're making the segue over. I like. Let's transition. The one thing that I had as an inspiration, it was like when I was still a small kid, we had this pottery guy that we went to doing some Japanese pottery. And he always said this, like, look, he was a very chaotic guy, right? So he had stuff everywhere. And then like, he's all like, I do not, I was like, I do not seek, I find. That was Picasso's quote that he once made. And it stuck to me. And when like the agents came out, I went through a separation. I had to like refurbish my whole apartment, and I was doing lots of transactions online now. And it was just not natural. Like you were saying, it left me there on my own. I had to figure things out. I had 50 tabs open at all times. Like it took me long times to figure out on the consider purchase things. Which ones am I going to get? What kind of sofa am I going to get? What kind of like kitchen utensils and all that stuff was just like, I don't know. It's new to me, but like, which one should I get? And then I was also like, this should change. And I think what we're seeing now, that was in spring 22 already, that we had that vision. Easter 22, we're like, yeah, there's a lot of too much friction in this, and there's technology now, especially in the advent of LangChain when that came out. We weren't as excited about ChatGPT, but when LangChain came out, that was like, okay, now they can take action. Now they can reason. And we saw from that time already in 22, we're like, LLMs, the main purpose we're going to use these for is for reasoning. It's reasoning engines that resemble the human brain, and that's super powerful. And so then we're like, hey, a very good place to put this is where you are right now, left alone. There's like no incumbent salespeople there, except now creators, I found out later. So I believe that very much. I feel you when you say that that's something we can come in now and just really hold them by the hand, have that white glove experience. So far, I have this impression that brands, they try to avoid you from having any conversation with them, any contact with them. And that's obviously for cost reasons. And I just listened to Brett Taylor's podcast the other day, and that struck me very strongly. Now the price of per conversation is completely plummeted. I think an order of magnitude doesn't express it. Probably it's like 2 orders of magnitude cheaper now. Well, I guess software companies want to benefit a bit from that. Like, so we probably pass on 1 order of magnitude to the customer. But now that that's the case, you can have so many more conversations in places you'd otherwise not be able to have. And I love that, because you have that ability now to engage and not to just leave people out there, which you were actively trying to do before, trying to like hide your number, make shitty chatbots that they just drop. Yeah. Anyway, so that's that.
Yeah, and to your point, it's an important piece, is that personalization, because it's hard. I think going back to the roots of how commerce started way back in the day, where we relied on the barter system, where it required a face-to-face relationship in order to make a transaction happen. With the new age of technology, and especially the younger generation, they're so much more connected, and they want to feel like they're connecting with something before they make that decision. This is where you see the rise of the macro and the nano size influencers really contributing to helping conversions for brands, is because they have the ability to really connect to their audiences in a deep and meaningful way, where that layer of trust starts off, where now it's time to maybe leave that creator and go towards an affiliate link or a brand's website. But that's where the disconnect still happens. They've done all of this amazing work in order to build that trust, and we want that trust to continue all the way in to ensure that that transaction occurs. And this is where I think a lot of our conversations that stemmed in our last couple of months, and even a conversation this morning, is really helping those creators and the consumers take that trust that they developed from the first interaction all the way to the end.
Yeah, and I think it's such a pity if you think about it. Like, you create this spark, this curiosity.
Don't let it die.
Exactly.
That's a lot of work.
You take it, and if I put myself in the creator's shoes, now not taking, I mean, we're working a lot with brands right now, so just listen away for a second. But like, if you put yourself in the creator's shoes, that the conversion rates are so poor. But still, you have no alternative, so you send it there to die, basically. Like, if 99, it's like Normandy, like D-Day. You land there, like, the chances you're going to make it's going to be so low. You're Kanonen, like, how do you call it in English? Kanonenfutter? Like, isn't it fodder? There's there's this term, I think it's called Kanonenfutter, but like, basically put out in all the machines is just kind of like just infantry is what the Kanonenfutter is.
Gotcha.
So that's what it feels like. They're just kind of sending you out there to die, and that's just been what it is. And it's like, before the internet came, there was no e-commerce. So I mean, it's just the reality that there was no alternative. But now there is. So I think that's the cool thing about it, is that, like, we're now helping to facilitate that transition from, there is social, and that's a platform in itself, and then there's websites, and that's a platform for itself, and then there's just this disconnect between the two. And we believe very strongly that if we can somehow bridge that in a way that the modality doesn't get lost, primarily that, I think you just continue, and then you have somebody there that's willing to listen. That's the other thing I like to say, like, brands are not that good at listening. I think creators are better at listening.
They are, yeah.
And but still, like, if you go into like a live stream or so, you feel partially heard, but you could easily also be overheard because there's a lot of noise and it's not a one-to-one. And I think that if you can bring it down to the one-to-one, and you really have the feeling that you're actually having that conversation now with, you're a fan, right? You're following these people for a reason. But still, like, there's a bit of a, we're treading that water carefully. There's a one-on-one that you want to have, but like you said before as well, if you don't get them within the first few seconds, they'll drop. And I think, what we're seeing is, if there's too much effort involved, they'll also drop. It's a fine line between personal engagement and asking questions, because that's, if you want to sell something, you'd like to know 2-3 things about who are you now talking to. The fan knows you don't know the fan just yet. So I think that's a powerful thing to keep in mind for us, is we're combining the storytelling aspect of it, or we're calling it story selling, together with the fact that you can ask any question, have an actual conversation in real time. And depending on which fan is coming in and how much attention span they have, maybe they're just like going through their TikTok feed in front of the TV and watching something, and they click on it, and then they don't want to be too proactive, right? They just want to continue consuming. And so we kind of swipe the chat. That's one. And then there's the other one that comes in like, oh, awesome. Now I can go ahead and ask this creator of mine, like, that I'm following for so long. I can ask some questions like that I didn't get answered before in this live stream, or didn't get answered in the UGC that they created. So.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's all really about time and place. And if the end user isn't quite ready, to your point, and then they come back, I think just having that embedded architect, where a platform product like Get It AI is always there for brands to be able to leverage, because they don't know when those consumers are going to come back. And the nice part about that is that a product like yours is always ready to pick back up where we started off.
Yeah.
And it's smart enough, and it understands, who those consumers are and what they're looking for, where brands right now would have a hard time to be able to drive someone through a campaign to a website. And if they drop off, now they have to go back and hit the reset button. And now it's life cycle marketing. Hey, you left this in cart. Hey, it's like, and now I'm on my Gmail's flooded with all of these, like, hey, get this offer. It's like, I don't want that offer right now. But having that personalized, where it understands who you are. And I know it takes time for it to learn. But I think as consumers start to understand that this type of technology is here to help them, they'll start to adopt, and it'll only get smarter and really help drive that understanding of how am I going to be helpful to this unique person versus the next person that comes in and has a chat with me.
And I think what I'm also a strong believer in is that now that this is becoming something that's available, you can no longer be ignorant to it. I was at Shop Talk last week, and that's one of the main themes that they had is like, there are assistants now that you can deploy for your brand. How are you making use of it, right?
Yeah.
And I think they're like, to your point, like we've seen, I think the longest conversations we've had on the platform was like 105 hours, because they started, and obviously they weren't there all the time. Right. They started, they left, they came back, continued, right, and they left. So like that, it kind of had this continuous momentum to it.
Yeah.
Where
like,
if I go
catching
back
up with an old friend.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, and I like to make that parallel to the physical store, because there we're used to a human there, and we're also used to, like, if it's not too big of a store where it's like too much traffic, they would be like, oh, hey, welcome back.
Right.
And they just kind of see you and you're welcome back.
Yeah.
That's one discussion I have sometimes is like, with the cookies and tracking and these things, like I think as a consumer, at least if I put that hat on, I like to be tracked if it's in favor of coming to that store and being recognized. Absolutely. There's good and bad tracking, as the same way there's like good deep fakes and the ones that you don't want to have, right? Yeah. We're more the consensual deep fake that you have for yourself.
I think that's, it's a big part of why, the flip feed and like the TikTok feed, people get so obsessed with it. It's when you go in there and they start to recommend things as if they're sitting right next to you, and it can be a little bit creepy, right? But at the end of the day too, for certain people, more myself, it's super helpful, right? Yeah. And it's like my wife and we have a 3-year-old now, and there's things that she's starting to grow into that she needs that she doesn't have. And I'm not going to go to a website and kind of say, hey, I need something for a 3-year-old. It's like I open up my TikTok feed or my flip feed and I'm already there. And it starts recommending things because one of my communities, but the feed knows exactly who I was, what I'm interested for, and maybe knows a little bit about what I'm going through, and then provides something that's right then and there. Great. I'm all for it. And as long as there's a express type checkout, I will pull the trigger. And my wife may yell at me for having one too many boxes on the porch, but I'll deal with that later. But it's interesting just to see how far we've gone. I think even just in the last couple of years in terms of shopping behaviors, and how social is really driving the connective tissue between discovery of new and what consumers are looking for. I think today, more so than anything, small businesses to unique niche products are flying off the digital shelves because of this discovery model and the way that they're intersecting people's lives and falling into the laps of them at the right time in the right place.
Good. So if you take a step back, like you're the expert in social commerce. You're one of the kind of like grandfathers of the whole movement here in the US, right? If I could say that.
Yeah.
And you're now seeing kind of like as in your advisory role with Get It, what's possible on the agentic or video agentic side, even. Like, where do you see this going?
Man, it's scary to think where it's going to go, but I truly believe, going back to this whole uniqueness of driving users to a site and truly interacting with them and giving them that personalized experience where it almost feels like every website or every link in bio or every post that I land on is truly built for me, and that everything that I receive through that interaction is helping me get to the end result and much quicker, and providing the guidance through the agent to be able to give me this consultation, but also help guide me through things that I don't know, that I don't have to leave to find out. I think that just truly unique positioning for both brands and creators to be able to have people land in their digital hands and say, hey, I'm here to help you. It's almost like you're the only one that exists in the world. And then that specialness, I think that layer of trust is what's going to keep bringing people back for more.
And how would you think that layer of trust can best be maintained? Like, if you look at because you were mentioning before that authenticity was kind of the drivers. I read this blog post of a guy in New York the other day where he was saying like the shift of like the brand being the one you were trusting over to now like these creators, and like you're mentioning nano and macro creators alike, those are the ones that you're trusting now. Like, so that this to me sounds like one of the key components of success. How do you see that?
Yeah, I think, it's going to take those community leaders to really jump on board, to kind of pave the way, right? And then people will follow. And it's really about helping those community members understand and learn how this is helpful for them in their daily lives. For the brands, I think is being able for the first time ever to connect to people at that personal level is what's new and very exciting. For brands to be able to almost speak as if the CEO is sitting across the table from me, or a product expert is sitting across the table from me and helping me, is undiscovered, opportunity for these people. And to be able to double down on that and truly treat every single customer that comes in contact with your brand, or if it's a creator in a community, as that individual, that's where I think a lot of the excitement comes out, and that's where we're all kind of heading. Yeah.
Okay. And if you look at like the opportunity now from a business perspective, like you're the head of growth at TikTok first, now at Flip, like where do you see the opportunity in terms of like the financial flows and the business opportunity in this now next era of agentic commerce?
It's gonna conversions at the end of the day, right? Like we're all in this to drive conversions. For Flip, we use UGC and authentic reviews to create that trust barrier, so that there's people that will believe what's being told to them, and then they make that transaction. Feeds like TikTok's feed to be able to help discover products that I've never heard about, but because a community is telling me, that's helping me convert. And at the brands, I know right now, they're still struggling to figure out, hey, once I've spent all this money to get Chase to get to my website, now what do I do with him? How do I get him to pull the trigger? Because I'll surf around and go to click on an ad and go to the website, but at that point I rarely check out. But if there's somewhere like Get AI plugged in to really help me get through that conversion rate, you're going to spend less time getting people to travel to your sites. But I think at the end of the day, what happens is I may have made a digital friend. I'll come back on my own. You're not going to have to pay marketing dollars to get me to come back and make another transaction. And I guarantee too, once you figure out how cool a product like Get AI is, I'm going to tell my friends about it. And they're going to come and they're going to show it. And then people are going to create their own viralness around this experience of like, this is pretty cool. I should try it.
I'm laughing because like two things happened. First, we were in conversations with Mr. Beast folks, and also one question this other day came from a VC side as well, and both on the same topic. What you just mentioned, like I've just made a friend.
Yeah.
So of course, like we're still riding that bleeding edge technology, which is agentic video, and also just the whole avatar video generation. And there's some cost involved, let's say. And how do you now go about it if you have a Mr. Beast that's the twin there, and then they come in and it's cool to buy stuff, but they're also just curious to go and talk because they're huge fans. And then that was kind of where the VC question comes in. It was like, well, what are you going to do if they're going to talk there for hours? And then we were seeing 2.5 minute average talk time, which is 5 times higher than on a website,
right?
Usually. But like, what if that now goes too far? And like, how are our costs going to look? What do the costs look like for us? And so my question is then, like, are we going to put a paywall behind it? Are we going to cap it at some point, being like, look, dude, I love the way this is going. We have like 3 free responses, but the fourth one, we're going to have to start either subscribing, give me $5 like a subscription, or just directing them back and saying, sorry, we're not here to talk only, we want to sell you stuff. That's a bit of a question mark.
Yeah, right? I mean, it's an interesting one. I think, at the end of the day too, it's like you're fighting for time and you're competing with each person's time. And from my perspective, to have someone stay on a website for 2.5 minutes, that's insane, right? Like average time on what is it, like Snapchat is like 7 or 9 minutes or something like that, And so to think that people are going to spend more time on landing pages or brand in the brand's world because of these agents, if I'm a marketer or I'm a e-commerce manager, I'm like, sign me up.
That's probably the right answer, right? It's probably the right answer is like,
they're watching a Mr. Beast video, they're hanging out with Mr. Beast on your website. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah, and you can start monetizing that then afterwards.
There's so much you can do,
and you're already anyway selling. They came there because of an ad, so you can just like say, hey, yeah, cool, I'll have another question for you, but like, have you heard about this awesome drop we had last week or so? It's true, it's a luxurious problem to have, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there if it goes too far. But it's a cool thing.
Good problem to have.
Yeah, exactly. It's right. So far, it was like, how can we get more? And now you're just thinking, how can we get less time engaged if we don't sell, right? So
I think it'll be a challenge and interesting to see how can you drive people to make those transactional moments happen quicker. But I also don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's kind of dual-sided, the way that you obviously want to convert the consumer, but if you're in a way you are converting them, if you're saying, hey, spend 2.5 minutes with me here, like you've grabbed their attention for a long period of time, like that's a massive win. What you do with that, I think, is the question mark, but also the prize in the sky for marketers and brands to think about, like, now that we've captured them for this long, what is that experience and what do we ultimately want to get out of that?
Yeah. Maybe on the creator side, I think what I want to say now with the creator. Oh yeah. So I mentioned before the story selling, right? And I've done some digging or like some reflection first. Is basically the spark that we mentioned before with the creators on social. That one's all about their storytelling capabilities.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I still remember the launch of the Apple TV when Apple went into TV Plus and making their own content. They really emphasized they're good at the why, right?
Yeah.
Like, we love working with musicians, but we also love working with people that have a story to tell. And the Hollywood directors are the best, the ones with the most impactful stories that they tell in a cinematic way, yada, yada, yada. And if you think about it, like in that perspective, in short form, if of course the stories are much punchier and shorter and like snappier, like there's a lot of things that have to be there to keep that attention in that 2 seconds that you have to kind of get the hook. And then, and so that's kind of how we see extending that story. And finally, like, I'd like to get your perspective afterwards on how you see creators kind of coming in and embracing this. But like the fact like that, we're launching a product next week. We call Zaid, and it comes from the 1001 Nights, the Arabian Nights. I'm not quite sure what the exact title of the story is here in the US, but like there was this it was, I think it was the wife of this king, or from the medieval, how do you call it, medieval Orient, or from the Orient, I think, from the Orient. And he was somehow mad, and he married a wife every day, and he executed a wife every day. And so this Shinadin, anyway, short form Zaid is a good storyteller, and like keeps him so curious that he just keeps on letting her live another day. So I think that's why we chose that name. We want to actually have the same thing happening on the brand, because you don't want to send them there to die.
Yeah.
You want to keep that curiosity alive. And by telling these kind of short stories and also combining with these like choose your own adventure kind of thing, then there. How do you see the creator space now reacting to having the opportunity of these AI twins, of agentic selling type of scenarios?
I think to kind of go off the, why you named the product the way that you named it is to complete the story. Right now, it's almost like an unfinished book. You've captured their attention, their excitement to go on this journey with them through the content or the posts that they've created. And all the user wants to do is keep going, right? And when you kind of say, hey, and then check the rest out in a link in bio or click this link, it's almost like an unfinished book. It's like the rest of the pages are blank. And so for creators, because they are the world's best storytellers, that's why brands have invested so much as they do today in them, and why they're so important for the economy of social commerce. Without creators, it's really nothing. It gives them the opportunity to almost create a personalized, next chapter for that person based off what they're able to do in the first few chapters of the storytelling, and just keep that relationship going. For them, like we talked with the person we talked to this morning, once they've left, it's kind of out of their control, the experience, the touch points, and to feel like that creator's now come with me through this journey to the next stage of learning more about a product, or if it's an e-course or anything, right? That relationship that I built through that first piece of content is kind of still going with me through the rest of the journey.
Yeah, and I like to think about also the creator being small little businesses, right? They're micro businesses.
Yeah.
And what I didn't realize before we started talking is that if you're on TikTok and you're good in TikTok or in YouTube or somewhere, you're actually the platform owns the customer relationship. You're just like one of the things that the algorithm just puts in, and they might follow you, and then you get some money that they share with you. If you now have these conversations with all these folks, you start learning a lot about them.
That's right.
You start seeing what they're interested in. You start like having the relationship, and as a business, that's relevant, I would say. Right? Where do you see the biggest opportunity on the creator side now, embracing something like Get It, or like what are the pain points that they could solve with that?
Ownership. Like you mentioned, being able to actually be in control and own the relationships that they're working so hard to build on these platforms, and getting them to convert by clicking that link or going to that next stage with them, and learning as much as they can about that person, whether it's through the 2.5 minutes I happen to disclose maybe when my birthday was, and to be able to take that information and know through various ways of communication to be able to next year come back to Chase and say, we talked about your birthday being on this day. I have all of these great kind of recommended products or resources that I think you would love. Like, check them out, like, or ask me any questions by clicking here. So being able to be in control of their own destiny, but also to, um, you know, basically create another version of themselves to help manage that as well takes time, because what they love doing was what they're great at doing, which is storytelling. They want to be able to go out there and create amazing content to connect to people. That's what they want to focus in on. So allow your quote unquote digital twin to kind of take care of that in between management, but at the end of the day, the ownership of that relationship is the creators. I think that's really exciting.
Yeah, and I think what I'm seeing, like with these platforms like, Social Snowball or Grin or so, there's a lot of this like matching happening between brands and creators. And I talk to creators and they're saying they're getting swamped, with the good ones at least, they're getting swamped with hundreds of emails every day. They don't know exactly which opportunities are now like fitting to what they actually like to stand behind, with their authenticity, with their following. So like how does that play in? Like, where are there inefficiencies or friction that we might kind of come in and solve also from the Get It side?
From like an affiliate perspective, I think it's hard, and the big question is, am I grabbing the right product? And a lot of times it's not up to the creator in terms of what products that they can go out of. One thing that's great about Flip is, like I mentioned, all you have to do is buy it, so you can kind of choose and pick. But let's say I land and I'm in a certain mood, or I'm looking for something specific, going back to the example of like my 3-year-old, right? And that may be a bad example, but to be able to access a database, or like a marketplace in a way of information or affiliate opportunities where it can actually pull in exactly what that person is looking for in that moment in time, I think is a huge upper hand, because right now it's fixed. What I have is what you got. Well, what if I don't like what you have? Why can't maybe the system be able to understand what it is I'm truly looking for and provide options, and being able to connect to other databases to pull in the right affiliate product for that person at that point in time is only going to give flexibility for that creator to be able to provide a solution for that customer. Like we talked about, that it feels like we're just sitting in a room and you're helping me as an expert find the right thing at the right moment.
Yeah, and so that's kind of where I hope we can then give them more time to go back to what they love doing, which is then creating more stories and content.
Yeah.
Because it seems to me that they don't like the whole matchmaking process there, and it might be suboptimal in terms of landing in the right deals with the right brands, and vice versa as well. What we would envision to have is to I always make this example of like Matrix, right? Where their authenticity, their likeness, their tone of voice, we can ingest all their TikToks, their YouTubes, whatever they have, transcribe that, make everything that is being said by their digital twin also be authentic in that sense. But what they do not have, and what brands also have difficulty with, is to align the brand messaging and all that stuff with the creator. So they always have this like, trying to control what they're doing, and without limiting too much the creative freedom, yada yada. Long story short, Matrix, because likeness, and then the brand just plugs in, and like in the movie where they learn like kung fu in 3 seconds, they're now the best expert that the brand could imagine, and they know how the best convert. And like we have our Zaid there that's creating the stories for them, specific to that product, specific to their audience, all like kind of tailored to get them through to that conversion. So what I hope to do is, I mean, that's something like, just taking a step back from my insight in the industry, is like conversational AI has been around for a decade. Our team actually came, a few of them came from Google Assistant. They were the founding team of Google Assistant. That's when the industry got created. And it's always been a heavy lift, reserved for like larger, like mid to larger corporations. And then you've had a project, and you have a whole category of profession called conversation designers. And once you're done, you just put a thing over and say like, don't touch that anymore, right? And now we're kind of like mixing that up, because we can generate these stories and these conversations. You don't need the conversation designer in the same capacity anymore, or at least they can cover more. And we want to come to that point where you can, even as a single person business that's not keen on spending hours and hours for a new product, to go and design these conversations, to go just there and be like, well, Zaid is taking care of it. It feeds me with the right stories. I'm being represented with my authentic self and stuff. So just go about and rake in those sales for me. That's the vision I would try to get to, which would kind of complement what you're saying there, which they're not keen on the admin part, let's say, as a single. Who is not? If you're a single person business, it's always, there's only so many hours. And if you're kind of just constantly doing admin work, you're not selling and you're not making as much money. So
doing quality admin work too, I think
yeah,
it's right. It's like
yeah,
being able to be in 100 places at once. This allows you to be a store owner and almost personally go and greet every person at the door as they come in and have a fulfilling conversation with them to help them with any questions that they have.
yeah.
It's expensive or it's time consuming or it's just not possible. With solutions like this gives the tools for businesses, creators to really, like we talked about at the beginning, is scaling themselves
Yeah.
In the most authentic and trustworthy way.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think to stick with the Matrix analogy, if all you need to do to become an expert in the next brand that's looking to work with you is just to be like, okay, and then you got all the knowledge there, and it's as if you've been born, or you were the founder of that brand almost, right? So that's to me something that reduces a lot of friction in that matchmaking process. And where I also see like brands being very receptive, those are the ones we're working with right now. It's like they like to have it on brand. They don't like to have to go chase all the creators all the time and do brand guidelines and all that. Like if they just do that once and they're responsible for the knowledge that goes in. So it's knowledge of brand, knowledge of the creator, as in like how they tell the stories and stuff. That goes a long way, I think. And I would envision, and that's kind of what we were discussing once as well. And like, how do we then benefit from that? I think if you are such a matchmaker, you can create this whole marketplace around how do brands sell in the social commerce space? How do creators actually also do this in a frictionless manner, still being true to their content, not just being merchants in that sense? Then you can also come in and say, we'll get a share of that as well. Like that justifies then coming in and getting the marketplace kind of a split of it. Can you share your thoughts on that as well?
I mean, if they're helping drive that conversion, of course they should have a piece of that pie. And like we talked about, if you know, through the creator and their digital twin can drive an intention of 2.5 minutes on a brand's website and then ultimately have them transact, but also maybe come back and then tell friends, that's a lot of savings right there. And to allow creators to be a part of that success, I think it just brings more opportunities for the creators to take part in the economics of what the brands are able to get out of driving those conversions at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean the time on site is one thing, but the other one's like conversion rates. If a conversation starts, the range of conversion then is between 13 and 21%. And like that's not even where we're at. That's a starting point almost, right? We're trying to go towards human level conversions because we employ more and more of those selling techniques. And humans, and that's kind of the thing, like we get compared sometimes to like live shopping. So it feels a bit like live shopping. It's not quite as entertaining because of course if you do a whole show, that there's a lot more entertainment factor to that. But it also doesn't come with the overhead. So you have this asynchronous live shopping experience in there, and live shopping has 40%, 50% conversion rates like that. So we can try to work our way towards that.
Well, it's personal shopping, right? Like when you go into a Nordstrom's even today, right, you're greeted by a real person that says, how can I help you today? They're driven by a commission, and their job is to match you with the best product based off your needs and requirements or the event. And it's even moved to in other parts of the world and a little bit here in the US is that digital personal shopper where I can click and talk to an expert. But to your point, scaling that and having people on staff ready to answer those calls as a FaceTime experience, it's a lot. And you have to train them. You have to worry about turnover. You have to worry about, hey, we just had new brand guidelines released. How am I going to get these people trained before the next call comes in, right? And then you got to market that service. You got to get people to convert and click that, and maybe don't know what that button does for me quite yet. And when I get there, I'm maybe now in an awkward conversation with someone's personality that I don't quite match with, right? So going in with like a digital twin, there's also a lot less pressure because you feel like, hey, there's not a lot of commitment from me to be able to talk to an AI agent right now. If I don't like it, I can hang up. But if it's a person, I'll be like, maybe I'm gonna like just because I'm nice. I'm gonna stay on for a little bit. I don't want to be mean and hang up, right? But with an agent, whatever, I'm done with that. Or where I've seen in the examples that you've shown me in some of the brands that you're launching, it's truly amazing where the relationship that you can develop through the agent, it feels like a real person, but without all of the kind of baggage that may come with it through personal shopping.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good analogy. I think that I like to also drop here that it's always important to think of that as a starting point. And AI is developing so fast, and we're embracing every new model that comes out, it's just a new opportunity for us to get even better and even closer to that kind of personal conversation that we're aspiring to have. So like just imagine now, like we're still in this like static talking. We enhance that with B-rolls. Now the models are so close to, or I think they can now do it. We're trying to prove that out and get that into product state soon. There's these pipelines of generating B-rolls that have the product image either in some sort of cool scene, like some futuristic, some imaginary scene, realistic scene, whatever, just because that's a lot of effort that people have to do to get that, or even combining that with the avatar and be like, okay, now the avatar is holding that product and doing something with it. So the second one is harder than the first one. So we might start with the first one, the second one.
Sure.
But what I'm trying to say here is like every time new things come out with AI, this just makes it one step closer to merging then that on and offline experience together. And that's what makes me very excited to kind of stay on the forefront of this development. And
I like we keep saying, it's all about trust. I think getting people in now to start trusting the version that's available today, knowing that the rate that AI is growing and all the capabilities it's going to have, you won't be able to tell the difference. So I know that time's just around the corner. And from what you've shown me, I know you guys are probably quicker than most others that are doing this right now. So yeah, it's really exciting. I think it's really just gaining that trust of people, and once they use it once, I know they come back for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that's going to be the exciting one, where when we start being within that, when you have the customer relationship like that, yes, we're still plugging into Klaviyo and these places to kind of just update the profiles. There's so much information that we're not playing into Klaviyo because it's just the context of that conversation, combining that with the orders they've had, combining that with any kind of like snippets that they were shared with us that are relevant again in future conversations to kind of have that relationship. It's going to be a lot of data that's just living within the agentic layer and not necessarily the traditional CRMs that are there. So that I'm curious to see how that goes. But I'm positioning myself also from Get It perspective to drive that ownership of relationship, because that's where at the end money gets made, right? If you have the trust, like you were saying, trust, authenticity, but also the context of because that's what, not in a usually streaming one-to-many context, but if it's on a one-to-one context, you do expect some sort of a history and knowing what's happened in the past to make it personal, right? So
it's a layer deep, like you get behind the scenes of individuals where you wouldn't collect that data in any other channel or medium. So yeah, it's super exciting. I get real ramped up when we talk like this, and I'm glad we were able to do it on what turned out to be a
quite sunny day. Yeah. It's like I compare San Francisco a bit to Britain sometimes. Like, you go through all the weathers within one single day.
You do.
It's quite crazy.
Yeah, it's about 30 degrees difference between here and where I live, just almost 30 miles away. But there's a reason why we come back and have amazing views like this.
Cool. Maybe one last final question.
Sure.
Outlook. Now we're talking a lot about avatars and the consumer there. How do you see the personal buyer, personal assistant, and an agent to agent kind of come about in the future? How do you see that evolving?
We've talked about this a little bit, and it's going to take time, but I really think that there's going to be a level where you're going to have this kind of follow me agent, where it's really embedded, whether it's at the device level or it kind of pulls along where every digital destination that you go, and no matter if it's booking tickets, almost like a travel agent would. It's like, hey, I gotta get out of San Francisco and I want to take a trip with the family to Hawaii. Great, I'm on it. I'll go talk to some other agents. We'll get you the best information. I know the rows, the seats that you want to sit. I know what type of hotels you like. I know what food, rental cars, everything, right? One-to-one. And it'll be as simple as just making a decision, having your agent come into your life and almost act as it is called as an agent of you, and act as you and call the hotels or call the travel people to be able to get everything sorted out. And from transacting, it's like, hey, I got a wedding this weekend and I need a suit. I know your measurements. I'm off to the races. I'll let you know what I find. It'll find the best deal. It'll know the brands that I prefer. Maybe it'll discover a new brand because my community told the agent, or another agent between one of someone in my community told them to tell me, whatever that may be. But I think it's something that's going to be just a natural extension of ourselves in the digital world to make our lives easier and ultimately bring us a step closer through kind of the digital economy.
Very cool. Very cool. So, hey, thanks so much for taking your time, Chase.
Of course.
I hope that we can take the conversations we're having and deepen that over time.
Yeah.
I love your vision. I love what you've done already with the social commerce space here in the US, and let's see how we can take that to the next level and bring it to now the agentic reality. We're starting to ramp up and evolve into it. So very cool.
I'm excited. Thanks for having me.